Oi! Yes. What's going on, everybody? It is Tuesday afternoon. We're coming in with an early balls deep breakdown today. The one fight that we're going to be working on today, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be the Charles Jourdain against Julian Erosa UFC Vegas 36 matchup coming up this Saturday. Probably my pick for fight of the night, even though there are a lot of fights on this card that are probably going to be bangers. And I can't wait to get into it with you guys. I'm ready. Man, does Smooth Jimmy look ready or what? I hope you guys are ready. And we got my man Monk in the room. Monk is ready to break down this fight. Good to see you, Monk. We got Chris for the Love MMA. Good to see him here. We got, he's saying, Unk, be listening on the way back to New York. Good timing. I'm glad you got to join us today live, my man. It's a good day. Sometimes to get some of these knocked out early. I'm going to be streaming quite a bit today. I'm going to be on Pub Sports Radio at 6 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock Eastern, breaking down the DraftKings slate with my guys Luke from Sparring with Reality. And we got my man Big Brady, as always, DFS by the numbers. I think it'll be just the three of us tonight. I'm not sure, but we will be breaking down this card top to bottom, DraftKings, giving you our best reads for that. And then I'll also be going live tonight right here on my channel after the Contender Series is over. I'm thinking 9:30 Central Time for Just the Tip with Uncle Weezy, a sensual prelude to the Balls Deep breakdown, where we will be looking at every fight on the card, giving you about a 5-minute breakdown for each one of them. Hopefully we can get out of here this week with it only being a 10-fight card and just a little over an hour. Get to interact with you guys a little bit more on that show. But it's going to be a busy day, so I got to do it. I got to talk to you guys here, and we got to get into these stats. And we got everybody saying hi to everybody in here because this is a friendly community where we support each other. We got Robbie in the room. What's up, dude? Yeah, banger alert is right, man. This is such a good fight. Both of these guys are spectacular strikers. Both of these guys are kill or be killed. And I can't wait to talk about it with you guys here. And we got, do you ever rest? Love it. Well, I'm going to be trying to get the rest of the content out of the way tonight because I'm sure a lot of you mixed martial arts fans know that football season is starting in about a week and a half. And my guy Smooth Jimmy and I, we need to start getting our fantasy football teams together here. And, I've got a draft on Thursday. I've got a draft on Monday. And then I've got 2 drafts on Tuesday. So I've got a lot of football research to do over the next few days. So I'm going to get at least 2 balls deep breakdowns done on my channel. I'll be on Pub Sports twice this week. And I will be on Big Brady's channel twice this week. Maybe, just maybe, we'll do one more balls deep breakdown if there's any fights that you guys need your Uncle Weezy to break down for you on Saturday's card. Maybe we could do one more tomorrow or even really late night tonight. But as of right now, I think by Wednesday afternoon, it's going to be all about football for me for a couple of days so that I can get ready for these 4 drafts. I'll get my bets in early on the MMA slate. And then we will just start to chalk it up for next week because there is no UFC card next week, you guys. And then after that, we will have Anthony Smith is going to be fighting. Oh, I forget who his opponent's going to be, but it's going to be 2 weeks from Saturday. And then from there, I don't think we have a week off in the UFC until Thanksgiving. So we're going to be on quite a run. I'm hoping that, like I say, after Tuesday of this week, I'm going to take a break from content until I'm on Brady's Best Bet show an hour before the first fight on Saturday and get ready for football, get ready for the week off in MMA. And that week off in MMA after my football drafts is going to be spent doing some behind-the-scenes things that you guys don't see, or in terms of me compiling the stats that I have for you guys every week. So, even though I'm going to have a week off, it's not really going to be a week off. I'm going to be very busy. But, yeah, trying to keep as active as I can for you guys so that you guys can enjoy the content. And it's all free. So, download that link to all the free stats that we're going to be seeing in today's video. Help it to use it, make some betting decisions for you guys. We got some money to make back from last week, man. We got Dan Goldstein in the room all the way from New Zealand. saying good morning. Degenerates and known undesirables, starting my day off right. Yeah, man, we're getting started here early today, Dan. And we got both Brady and Weezy never stop. Chris says, you got that right. Brady works harder than I do, man. That guy is unbelievable. He's a young man, though. He's got a lot of fire in that blood of his. I'm on death's doorstep, so I'm trying to just scrape what's left of the energy out of the bottom of the barrel for you guys to get out here, maybe do about half as much content as Brady does for you guys every week. And let's see, we got Dan saying, let he who is without sin kick the first ass. I think that sinless bastard is Charles Jourdain. We got Uncle Drafty. We got DFS by the numbers, the man himself in the room saying violence. Well, let's see if there's any credence to there being any violence bets on this fight. So let's get these stats up here for you guys. I'm in Brady's chat room. I got to get out of there. And we can get the stats up for you guys and start like we always do on Balls Deep Breakdown with the tail of the tape. Let's zoom in and let's see what we've got here. We have got Charles Jourdain, only 25 years old, still a baby in terms of mixed martial arts age here. This is a very, very young man who already has 15 professional fights to his credit at the tender young age of 25. Julian Erosa is going to be the much taller man here, and he's going to have a significant reach advantage, a 5-inch reach advantage and a 4-inch height advantage. So this is going to be the much bigger, longer man is Julian Erosa. Will he be able to use that reach in order to outstrike Charles Jourdain on the feet? He's got a nice little front push kick that he uses to keep distance, but I wouldn't say his jab and his distance management is something that we really need to worry about here. Jourdain should be able to get inside, and we've seen him fight some tall fighters before. In particular, on the regional scene, you see him punt Matar Lowe's head into about the 15th row, and Matar Lowe is even taller than Julian Erosa is. Julian Erosa, the southpaw, and we got Charles Jourdain, an excellent kickboxer, very accomplished, very good footwork, very technically sound. He fights out of both stances, so he will be switching stances very consistently here. Julian Erosa, straight out of Yakima. Yakima MMA, Yakima, Washington. How many times is your Uncle Weezy going to be able to say Yakima? I love that word. Or maybe even Yakima. That's even got a nicer pop to it. Julian Erosa, United States, and Charles Jourdain are neighbors to the north in Canada. We've got a pretty big experience advantage here, you guys, for Julian Erosa. As we see, let me get rid of this up here, get a few more stats on the screen. We see that Charles Jourdain, very young at 25 years old, still has 15 fights. A 5-year career with 15 fights means he's been very active at about 3 fights a year. While for Julian Erosa, he's got about an 11-year career, and he's got 34 fights. So 3 fights a year as well for Julian Erosa. So obviously Erosa at 11-year career, twice as long as Charles Jourdain here at about 5.5. So we see that Erosa is going to be the much more experienced martial artist, having twice as much cage time, twice as many pro fights, twice as many years in the game. And then if we even look at UFC experience, we see those numbers almost shaking out the same way again, as twice as many fights, but the same amount of cage time, which tells us that Charles Jourdain's fights have been pretty much going the distance at an average fight time of 13.81 thus far, while Julian Erosa's average fight time in 9 fights is 7.73 minutes. So we do have Erosa's fights finishing inside the distance more times than not, especially when he loses. So yeah, we do see that Julian Erosa, even though he's older, with that age comes the experience advantage that he has. But, we also look at those measurables there, and he is going to be the taller and the longer guy here, also fighting out of the southpaw stance. Sometimes that gives some people problems. An accomplished striker like Jourdain, probably not so much. but you got to give the measurables advantages here to Erosa, and you got to give the experience advantages here to Erosa. If we look at the finish numbers, this is where we really see what DFS by the numbers was talking about when he said violence. Okay, we have got in 11 career wins for Charles Jourdain. We've got a 100% finish rate, 27% by sub, 73% by knockout. And for Julian Erosa, in his 25 professional wins, we've got 44% by knockout, 44% by submission for an 88% overall finish rate. My word, 22 out of 25 professional wins for Julian Erosa inside the distance. 11 by submission, 11 by knockout. Equal opportunity finisher at a fantastic rate of 88%. Charles Jourdain finishing about 3/4 by knockout, a quarter by sub, but a 100% finish rate. Let's do a little math, you guys. 36 professional wins for Erosa and Jourdain combined. And we have got, out of those 36 wins, 33 of them finishing inside the distance. Wow. That's over 90%, you guys. That's really impressive. But how do they lose? We know that Julian Erosa has 9 losses. 5 of those losses have come by knockout. So 5 of 9 losses inside the distance for Julian Erosa. Charles Jourdain, 3 losses and a draw. He has never been finished, though. So in the 12 combined losses for these guys, we do see 5 of them finishing inside the distance for, maybe about 44%. Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, it's not something we jump at for inside the distance bets, but the fact that both of these guys have been such prolific finishers in their own right, maybe we could see Charles Jourdain get finished for the first time if Erosa lands a big shot. And we could certainly see Charles Jourdain being such a fantastic knockout artist in his own right. And Julian Erosa, who, if we look right here, he has lost 56% of his overall losses have come inside the distance by knockout. But if we look up just a little bit and we see those 5 losses in the UFC, 4 of those 5 losses coming inside the distance by knockout. So the Charles Jourdain knockout prop for me is something that is definitely catching my attention. Let's see what you guys have to say here in the chat before we get into the striking and grappling statistics here. All right. We got Dan Goldstein saying Uncle Weezy has just the tip in any different apple pies. What a unit. You got that right, my man. Absolutely right. We got Chris for the love saying Erosa definitely kill or be killed. Wondering what the fight doesn't go to decision odds will be. We will cover that shortly for sure, Chris, because that's going to be an important bet for looking at this fight. And then we've got Dan Goldstein here saying Erosa is going to have hepatitis from the body and liver work Jourdain does inside. Yeah, and Jourdain definitely works all parts of the body. He goes to the head, he goes to the body, he goes to the legs. He works out of both stances. He's very dangerous. Yeah, he's going to have to close the distance against the much taller, much longer Erosa here. And Erosa pretty good at keeping distance when he feels like it with those push kicks. However, what I'm worried about here is seeing Erosa doing too much pressuring, coming into the range of Jourdain and winding up getting hurt. And that's why we have to take a very close look at these striking statistics here and see what we see on the page. Okay, we've got Julian Erosa landing 5.1 out of 10.79 significant strikes attempted, 47% striking accuracy. He is landing a knockdown on 0.56% of the total significant strikes that he lands, and he's averaging 0.43 knockdowns per 15 minutes. So for a featherweight, those are solid knockdown numbers. They're not going to knock your socks off. Right in the meaty part of the curve, one of those terms that Dan Goldstein loves so much, and one of those terms that may be my next show if I can figure the time to even do another show every week. But we've got really good striking numbers out of Erosa in terms of the power, in terms of the accuracy. However, he is getting hit more than he hits his opponents. His defensive acumen is not as good as it could be. We've got a negative 0.68 significant strike differential, only a 50% striking defense. And then if we look at the knockdowns for total significant strikes absorbed, we see a very troublesome 1.5% there. That is not good. That usually means about once every 66 strikes, you're getting knocked on your ass. And with Charles Jourdain, a guy who is averaging about 5 significant strikes per minute in a 15-minute fight, he's probably going to land about that many. So there's probably about a 50-50 chance that he lands a knockdown here on Julian Erosa if we just look at Charles Jourdain's knockdown percentage, and then we look at Julian Erosa's knockdown percentage absorbed. We see that there's probably a statistically significant chance that if this stays in the striking realm for a long period of time, that Charles Jourdain is going to land a big shot here. And we can evidence this striking advantage in the statistics that Jourdain has by looking at this here. He's landing a little bit less, 4.79 as opposed to 5.1 for Erosa, but the volume is very similar at 10.63 offered. We've got just a little bit less accurate at 45.1%, but look at those power numbers. Jourdain landing a knockdown on 1.5% of the significant strikes that he's landed. That means that he has 5 UFC knockdowns in 5 UFC fights. Those are the kind of power numbers we like to see from a striker. He is averaging 1.09 knockdowns per 15 minutes, and Julian Erosa is averaging being knocked down 1.29 times per 15 minutes. So when we see those numbers, we are definitely seeing a path here for Charles Jourdain to knock this dude out. 4 out of 5 losses coming inside the distance in the UFC for Erosa by way of knockdown, by way of knockout. And Julian Erosa has been knocked down 6 times in 9 UFC fights, you guys. So really, definitely a statistical path to knockout here for Jourdain. However, we do see a really nice striking ratio here at 4.794, 4.11 against, and a 61.5% striking defense for Jourdain. But we cannot ignore this number. 284 significant strikes absorbed. He's been knocked down 2 times. And we do see that Julian Erosa has some power in his own right. As he is, man, the way he knocked out Jamal Emmers was absolutely beautiful. He's a guy that has 2 knockdowns and 355 strikes. So, I mean, this is pretty good. He's a guy that can absolutely hurt you. And Charles Jourdain has been knocked down before. He's been knocked down twice. He's averaging being knocked down 0.43 times for 15 minutes. So this is interesting. I'm giving Jourdain the striking advantage here. I think he fighting out of both stances. I think he's more technically sound. I think he has more power. I think he has a wider diversity of strikes. But both of these guys are damn good in the striking realm. And Erosa is going to have that reach advantage and that height advantage. If he chooses to use it, if he chooses to be a little more technical, instead of just being that marching forward guy looking to break people, looking to absolutely sap his opponent's conditioning, if he fights a little more technical here, he could wind up using that length advantage and using something else that we're going to talk about coming up in the grappling statistics here to potentially win some minutes and win a greasy decision here. Charles Jourdain's never been finished, and Julian Erosa has some ways to win minutes in this fight. So let's take a look at the grappling statistics here, even though I am definitely going to give the striking advantage to Charles Jourdain. Let's look at these grappling numbers because they're very important, you guys. Oh, God damn it. It always happens. I always lose. There we go. All right. Julian Erosa in 9 fights has only attempted 11 takedowns. He's gotten 6 of them for a 54.55% takedown percentage. He is averaging more than 1 takedown per fight at about 1.3 per 15 minutes, and he's averaging 0.86 submission attempts for 15 minutes. He's got some tricky front chokes. He can finish you with a darce or a guillotine. Julian Erosa, and as we mentioned in the finish stats at the beginning of the fight, he is an equal opportunity finisher, you guys. A lot of people think of Julian Erosa as a pure striker, but this guy has, what is it? I think it's 22 out of his 25 wins coming inside the distance, 11 by submission, 11 by knockout. So don't kid yourself. If this fight goes to the ground, Julian Erosa has definitely got some ways to win this fight. So he's got some grappling numbers that really aren't that bad. 11.18% control time, but he's being controlled about 22% of the time. So 33% of Erosa's fights taking place in control time positions, about 2/3 of his fights taking place at striking range. We do see that Erosa's takedown defense is not good. It's at 58%. He's being taken down more times than he takes down his opponents at 2.16 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's had 0.22 submission attempts against him per 15 minutes and about 22% control time against. Now, that takedown defense would be troublesome here, and the 2.16 takedowns against per 15 minutes would be troublesome if we saw Charles Jourdain going to the wrestling. However, Charles Jourdain has 5 UFC fights and only 1 takedown attempt, you guys. So it's very safe to say that Charles Jourdain is probably not going to go to his wrestling here, especially against the guy that has 11 career wins by submission in Julian Erosa. We can count, just by looking at the statistics, at Charles Jourdain wanting to keep this fight standing, wanting to knock out Julian Erosa, winning the fight that way with his striking advantage. The problem is that even though Charles Jourdain has had 19 takedown attempts against him and only 1 takedown attempt for, he's only being out-controlled 11.37% to 9.24%, which is very strange. A 19-1 takedown against to takedown for attempt ratio, but really only like a 1.2% control time against to control time for ratio. So even though Charles Jourdain basically folds like a lawn chair every time somebody tries to take him down, 47.37% takedown defense. And if you watch the regional scene footage on Charles Jourdain, the takedown defense is even worse. This guy makes Carlos Condit look like Nurmagomedov. I mean, you're talking about 100% takedown defense for a guy like Nurmagomedov, and you're talking about 30% takedown defense for a guy like Carlos Condit. Charles Jourdain's takedown defense is absolutely pathetic, and his get-up game is almost even worse. From what I've seen on tape, especially pre-UFC, if you go and you watch that TJ Laramie fight, that was a 25-minute fight that went the distance, and I swear to God, Jourdain spent about 20 minutes of that fight on his back doing absolutely nothing. So, I just don't like the problem with Jourdain and betting him as a big favorite here is that he has this gigantic gaping hole in his game, and that's being able to stop takedowns and being able to get back up after he does get taken down. Is Julian Erosa the guy to exploit that hole in his game? Probably not. Only 11 takedown attempts in 9 fights for Erosa. 11.18% control time off of those 6 takedowns. That's about 7 to 8 minutes of control time off of 6 takedowns. It's just not enough. And then we see, even though Jourdain's been taken down 10 times, I would say that he has really only been controlled about 8 minutes. So despite the fact that his get-up game was poor coming into the UFC, it seems like Charles Jourdain, at the ripe young age of 25, is making improvements to his game that perhaps we won't see there being as big of a hole in his game going forward in these defensive grappling stats. So let's look at the advanced stats here, because there's some things I want to bring to your attention here in terms of these fights. And I don't have any comments up on the screen, so that's good. Charles Jourdain, if we look at his takedown defense, and let me zoom back in here now and go down. So this is the very first fight. This is Desmond Green, took him down 4 times out of 4 takedown attempts. Um, then there were no takedown attempts in the second fight. And then in this fight, 5 out of 6 takedown attempts and 5 advances for Andre Philly. Both of those fights were losses. So when we look at these losses for Jourdain, the loss against Philly, the loss against Green, we see something here. We see him being out-controlled by 2 minutes in this fight. We see him being out-controlled by about a minute and a half in the Philly fight, and we see the takedown defense at 10%. 9 out of 10 takedowns for Green and Philly. 6 advances off of those 9 takedowns. So they did very well once they did take him down as well. And we see 62 and 55 significant strikes for, and 44 and 78 significant strikes against. So what's interesting about that is that even though Philly was able to take him down, Jourdain still outstruck Philly. Philly only had 44 significant strikes and Jourdain had 62. But probably those takedown attempts and the control time that Philly accrued was enough to win a round or two. And then the round that was close went 2 out of 3 to Philly on the scorecards. And there you go. That's why the money line worries me a little bit for Charles Jourdain, because his takedown defense is so poor, or at least has been in the past. If this fight gets taken to the ground, Erosa is going to be able to win enough minutes potentially to win a greasy split decision here. However, when we highlight these power numbers, and we can look at them right here, 2 knockdowns in the Rojo fight, 1 knockdown in the Philly fight, 2 knockdowns in the Doo Ho Choi fight. So even though we're seeing Jourdain potentially have that ability to be able to lose minutes and potentially lose rounds, and therefore maybe not be the best value on the money line, we do see the kind of transcendental power. 5 knockdowns landed in 331 significant strikes, 5 knockdowns in 5 fights. 2 out of 5 fights where he lands more than 1 knockdown in a fight. We see that kind of power, leading me to believe that I'd rather, instead of laying 2 units to win 1 on the money line, lay about a half unit on the KO line to win 1 unit, reduce my exposure by 75%, and get the same amount of a return, because the KO prop for Jourdain is probably about plus 225. But we'll look at the odds here after we get into the strength of schedule numbers. But we can also see in Erosa that he's got some power in his own right. He had a spectacular jump knee knockdown against Nate Landwehr. He had a knockdown against Jamal Emmers with a spectacular head kick. He's got power in his own right, but we do see the knockdowns absorbed being at 6, you guys. He's been knocked down in 6 different fights. He got knocked down here. He got knocked down here, 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 and here, you guys. Let's see who's knocked him down. Devontae Smith had to be one of them, because that dude's got lightning in his hands. He's been knocked down by the inimitable Teruto Ishihara. He's been knocked down by Jamal Emmers. He's been knocked down by Devontae Smith. He's been knocked down by Julio Arce. He's been knocked down by Sean Woodson. And he absolutely got destroyed by Sung Woo Choi in his last fight. And that was just June 19th, you guys. So he's just coming off a pretty nasty knockout that happened less than 3 months ago. Another reason why I like the value on the knockout prop rather than having to pay up almost 2-1 for the money line prop on Charles Jourdain. But, like I say, it's funny to see that in 2 of these fights that Erosa's been knocked down, he's actually won those fights. And that's because Erosa's in a lot of wars. He's got fantastic conditioning. Even though he's been knocked out in 4 out of his 5 UFC losses, the guy actually has a decent chin. He's taken a lot of big shots and kept moving forward. Think about that Sean Woodson fight. Woodson, not a guy that has a ton of power, but look at how many strikes Sean Woodson landed on him in 764 seconds. 106 significant strikes that he just walked through and then eventually finished him late in the third round. So Erosa can take a punch. He's absorbed 402 significant strikes in the UFC. So, this guy is a guy who can actually take a punch, but we've seen him knocked out a lot, and it's because his style is so pressure focused, so moving forward focused, that sometimes he just walks into stuff that is absolutely deadly, and it sleeps him. And in particular, the head kick knockout that he suffered to Julio Arce back in May of 2019 was particularly deadly. But, we look at these records of guys that are beating him. Sungwoo Choi, 3-2. Arce, 5-2. Dawson, 6-0. Devontae Smith, 4-1. And Teruto Ishihara, 3-5. So, it's not like he's 21-10 is the combined record of the 5 guys that he's lost to. So, a 2.1 ratio there before we strip out those wins from their record, which will make it 1.6. But anyway, we see that Jourdain here, 13-10 record of the guys that he's lost to, while he's beaten guys with a combined 3-4 record. So he's fought really kind of middle of the road guys. Philly being the best opponent that he's fought. The win over Marcelo Rojo and Duho Choi. The Choi win, very, very impressive, especially seeing as that came in Korea. All right, let's see what you guys have to say here before we go into the stats. Oh boy, we've got Julian Erosa has a Chindex rating of 353. Chindex courtesy of Monk Maddox. You got that right, man. I love the Chindex that Monk does. My stat for Chindex is just so boringly named, so I got to do something about that. We got DFS by the number saying Erosa has that Priscilla catch-a-beating striking defense, but doesn't have that zombie girl toughness to back it up. Also not as handsome, not nearly as handsome, man. That when she dyed her hair blonde and had it slicked back, it kind of reminded me of Rutger Hauer back in the 1980s, just a strong chin, very strong, handsome features. Julian Erosa is not as handsome as Priscilla Cachoeira. Will never be. Will probably never be as tough either. However, I will tell you something that Priscilla Catch-a-Beating and Julian Erosa have in common, and that's they're always in exciting fights. And that's why we love to break down Julian Erosa fights, because this is definitely a potential fight of the night that we're breaking down here. 2 spectacular, explosive, flashy strikers that don't really have a wait and see attitude in the cage. They definitely are they throw in combination, they throw with a lot of volume, and they both have a lot of power in their hands, and they've both been dropped a number of times too. We could see this be a back and forth war with a bunch of people, different guys landing spectacular shots at different points in the fight. So I can't wait for this one. But yeah, thank you for bringing up how handsome Priscilla is, because that's something we don't hear enough, my man. We got Dan saying, no, Brady, we cannot put Erosa on the Mount Rushmore of chins like Catch-a-Beating and the great Malcolm X. Gordon, the steel chin of Malcolm X. Gordon. And we got my guy Clint in the room. What's up, Uncle Weezy? What's up, Clint? I enjoyed the show with Matthew Holt yesterday. Always great watching you break it down on Pub Sports Radio. One of the best stations on YouTube to catch some of the best gambling content on all these different sports. Clint has the hottest podcast on Pub Sports Radio relating to MMA, the Die Hard MMA podcast, every Monday at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. It is good to have my man Clint in here. Thanks for hanging out, brother. Appreciate that. We've got Indigo Ginzo saying, where do you get these spreadsheets? They're awesome and super informative. God, you would think that that's me in my burner account, just, sucking me off here, telling me how awesome I am. But that's not me. That is Indigo Ginzo asking me where I get these spreadsheets. Indigo Ginzo, I create them myself. I've been doing these spreadsheets since probably June of last year. They have evolved over the months. I put a lot of work into these spreadsheets and into the matchup templates. But once I do that, I make sure that you guys have access to them, because it's us against the bookies. And we need to have as much information on our side when we're making choices, so that we can make the right choices over the long enough time frame that we can make a little money off of these bookies. And it's my pleasure to be able to help you guys out with these stats. Also, if you sign up on DFS by the Numbers Patreon, which is only $10 a month, it's ridiculously cheap. You can have access to all of my statistics in addition to everything that DFS by the Numbers does. And the amount of DraftKings, FanDuel content, betting content that is on that Patreon is worth so much more than $10 a month, Indigo Ginzo. You should check that out too, for one of the best values in the MMA betting community right now, DFS by the Numbers Patreon. But thanks for saying that. And we got Diehard MMA Podcast saying, DFS by the Numbers, I cannot believe they matched up my two girls together. Priscilla versus Julian. Does Sean Shelby hate me? Yeah, and that's a rough matchup for Priscilla, because Priscilla has not looked good on the takedown defense and the get-up game, and that's exactly where Julian Robertson shines. So that is going to be a classic striker versus grappler matchup. And we did see Mazzani tire out trying to take down and hold down Priscilla. She's very strong, and she's very singularly focused on landing that big right hand of hers. Man, that's going to be an interesting fight. I'm really looking forward to that, because those are two of my favorite fighters too, Clint. I'm a big Priscilla Cachoeira fan. She's super exciting to watch. Her story is really inspiring. And I just love watching women that have power in the cage, because it brings an element that we don't see a lot in women's mixed martial arts. And Priscilla's got that crazy power. Jillian's got that fantastic slick grappling game. We're going to see which one of those two wins out, and I can't wait for that one. And we got Dan saying Clint is stuck in an MMA thruple and is feeling torn. Thruple, a word that you just don't hear even close to enough these days. It's a beautiful word to put into anybody's vernacular. I'm going to try to be using that one a little bit more in the future. Thank you, Dan Goldstein, for another piece of MMA gold that you give Uncle Weezy's listeners. And we got DFS saying, what a fight that'll be, Clint. I'm a big fan of both ladies myself, and that you can count me in on that one, Brady. And Dan saying, I want to make a joke about the meaty part of the curve and gaping holes in the game, but I won't. Yeah, that would be kind of a layup, Dan. You're usually a little bit better about, taking a little bit more the grittier topics and finding some gold, finding some diamonds, deep in the rough there. That one is kind of a layup, maybe a little bit below you. And we got Clint saying the key to Jourdain versus Erosa is violence, and I couldn't agree more, Clint. 88% finish rate for Erosa, 100% finish rate for Jourdain. Violence is on the menu. And we got Monk saying at Dan Gold saying you love that Chindex rating. And we got Dan saying, yeah, parlaying Jordan is asking to be feed turds in your apple pie. Violence is what I'm smelling. Agreed. And we got Dan saying the Chindex and ass whooping index mainstays in my verbiage now, brother. Yeah, Monk's the man. If you have not checked out his channel, definitely do it. And we got Nick in the room. What's up, Monk? What's up, Nick? Thanks for stopping by, man. Appreciate it. We got Monk saying actual Chindex for Erosa is 1.42. Terrible. Yeah, is that what the exact rating that I have for that? Let me look here, because I think it was right around there. I've got it at 1.49, Monk, but you probably don't have the Emmers fight in there. So that's probably why it's a little bit different. Thanks for the kind words, Weezy. Oh, yeah, you're absolutely welcome, Clint. Thanks for everything you do for the MMA community, man. Your podcast is one of the reasons that I wanted to start doing stuff like this. So, man, it's really cool to have you hanging out with me in here, and I really appreciate everything you do for the community, man. It wouldn't be the same without you. Yeah, and Chris for the love of MMA saying that the Discord chat is fun too, Indigo. Lots of good people in there. Yeah, and that's for sure, man. That was where I just X'd out before I came in here. I'm always in there talking with Brady and the boys. A lot of good, sharp minds in there, bouncing back ideas and bet ideas. And, we kind of keep each other in check and remind each other when we're getting out a little bit too far over our skis. It's nice to have some other sharp minds to bounce your ideas off of. So, and we got Monk saying no DWCS here. Yeah, exactly. I know. That's why we have some slight differences in our stats. And Monk saying, yeah, I should probably get in that Discord. Yeah, you absolutely should, dude. A lot of good dudes in there, Monk. Yeah, so we talked about a little bit about the strength of schedule here. We can see that Julian Erosa has a 1.75 ratio, while Jourdain's is 1.15. And let me just zoom in on this a little bit better for you guys. Get these numbers nice and fat so you can all see them. So yeah, 1.75 ratio for Erosa, 1.15. But we see that Charles Jourdain's average opponent has 5.6 total fights, while Erosa's fighting a much less experienced fighter with 3.67 total fights. And then we see in the losses, both of these guys are losing the guys that have very few fights in the UFC. 1.75 for Erosa, 2.5 for Jourdain, and a 2.5 ratio for Erosa, 1.5 for Jourdain. And then we've got a 1.1 ratio in the losses and a 1.6 ratio in the wins, in the losses for Erosa. Erosa is losing the less experienced competition than Jourdain is. So, it's actually kind of close. When you see these low numbers in the total fights, like 2.5, 1.75, 3.67, 5.6, we can't take too much stock in these ratios. So definitely, I'm looking at the strength of schedule and considering it more on the base that Jourdain has fought about a third of his career, 5 out of 15 pro fights at the UFC level, and he's still young and getting better. Compared to Erosa, who has fought, maybe about 27%. So Jourdain's been fighting a slightly higher percentage of his career at the highest level. And if we just look at the ratios, Erosa's got the better ratio. So I'm going to say that the strength of schedule is pretty similar here. So let me just kind of go through and summarize everything that we just talked about here. The measurables: Erosa, the bigger dude, 4 inches taller, 5-inch reach advantage. However, Jourdain is 7 years younger. So I think that there's value in that youth, and there's also value in being the bigger guy. So I'm going to leave that measurables advantage to Erosa because of the size. However, maybe he doesn't use it as well as he could. The experience advantage, obviously, this goes to Erosa. We got 19 more professional fights, 165 more minutes of pro cage time, 5 more years as a pro, 4 more UFC fights, 88% for career finish rate, equal opportunity finisher, 11 submissions, 11 knockouts. While for Jourdain, he's fought a higher percentage of his pro career at the UFC level than Erosa, 33% to 26%, 100% career finish rate, 73% by knockout, 27% by sub. The striking advantages: Erosa is a solid striker, uses his length fairly well, especially when he's using that front push kick. He has a 5-inch reach advantage here. Pressure fighter, doesn't just stand in front of his opponents. A good volume, solid accuracy, 0.56% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed, and Jourdain has been knocked down on 0.7% of the significant strikes that he's absorbed. So, we could certainly see Erosa land a big shot. However, I'm giving the striking advantage to Jourdain here for the following reasons. He's got nice striking numbers thus far in the UFC. He lands more than he absorbs, 4.79 to 4.11, while Erosa absorbs more than he lands. Erosa lands 5.1 and absorbs 5.78. Jourdain has great power, landing a knockdown on 1.51 of the significant strikes he has landed, and Erosa's been knocked down on 1.49% of the significant strikes he's absorbed. Definitely a path for Jourdain to KO Erosa, as 4 of Erosa's 5 losses have come inside the distance by knockout. Charles is also better defensively, boasting a 61.5% striking defense in comparison to Erosa's 50.5 striking defense. So definitely giving that striking advantage to Jourdain. The grappling advantage I'm going to give to Erosa. Erosa is the more willing wrestler here, attempting 11 takedowns in 9 fights in comparison to Jourdain, who's only attempted 1 takedown in 5 fights. Erosa is averaging 1.29 takedowns per 15 minutes and 0.86 submission attempts per 15 minutes. And Jourdain has terrible takedown defense at 47.37%, and he's getting taken down 2.17 times per 15 minutes, controlled 11.37% of the time. So there could definitely be a path for Erosa to win minutes and a round or two with his wrestling, should he choose to use it. We have to remind ourselves only 11 takedown attempts in 9 fights for Erosa. So we can't just say, oh yeah, he's definitely going to go to the grappling here. And Jourdain, in his own right on the grappling side, has been successful in keeping the fight standing 79% of the time. So even though he gets taken down, he's shown that he's not easy to keep there. Even though his opponents have been way more active with the takedown attempts than Charles, 19-1, he's only been out-controlled 11.37% to 9.24%. So his opponents have been unsuccessful thus far trying to make it a grappling match. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, is Charles Jourdain. Not impressive off of his back by any stretch of the imagination. However, he keeps it in his back pocket, and he's not a fish out of water. On the ground, he does have a couple wins by submission in his career. The strength of schedule advantages, like we just discussed that, I don't see much either way. So the advantages I'm giving Erosa are the measurables, the experience, and the grappling. And then Jourdain's advantages, I'm going with the striking. But I want to see how Jourdain deals with pressure. And I think he deals with it pretty well from what I've looked into the tape. I'm going to pick Jourdain inside the distance by knockout here. I would think that the measurables, the experience, and the grappling would make a difference. If I had seen Julian Erosa employ a diverse enough array of game plans over his UFC career, in order to, kind of show a game plan that's going to be most likely to help him win a fight. I've seen Julian Erosa kind of do the same things over and over and over again, which is continue to go to the striking, not stay very long in the grappling realm, not attempt a lot of takedowns, and kind of just try to use his conditioning to break people. And with as shinny as he's been, getting knocked down on 1.5% of the significant strikes that he absorbs, it's hard to see him employing that game plan and having it work more times than it doesn't. So let's look at this. Let's look at the lines here. And first, let me talk to you guys here and see what let's see what you guys have. Chris for the Love MMA saying, except that Dolidze bet, never again, most regret bet one ever. Yeah, we both cashed that bet, but Dolidze actually fought pretty smart in that fight, so at least it helped, I stayed away from betting Jamal Emmers last weekend because I was worried about his cage IQ, and not just worried about his, but also pretty convinced that Sabatini's was going to be better no matter what than Emmers. And sure enough, that was the particular narrative of that fight, was if you handicap that fight based on fight IQ, you cashed a plus 130 ticket on Pat Sabatini. So you got to really worry. Fight IQ is something that we need. We need, if we're going to be laying money on a guy, to know that he's going to have the better fight IQ than his opponent. And it's a very important part of sports betting, especially in MMA. And Nick Sisson saying that Clinton DFS are awesome. You are absolutely right about that. Chump change nowadays and worth it, says Chris for the Love. It's Booty saying targeting this fight heavy on DK. Yeah, absolutely. High chance of finishing inside the distance, high chance of a knockout, high chance of high volume, and also a high chance of anybody attempts a takedown. There's a high chance that it's going to happen because both of these guys have really poor takedown defense. We could see that finish, Booty. Otherwise, 3-round war, probably smart. I'm leaning under 2.5, says Monk. I am as well. I'm with you on that. That defensive striking of Erosa will probably get him in trouble if he doesn't step out of his comfort zone and grapple. I agree 100% with that, Chris. Probably a good spot, Monk. Yeah, that under 2.5 looks nice. It's Booty saying, I see knockdowns in this fight, and I think the winner will score high on DK, and I agree 100%. Jourdain controls 44.85% of grapple time. Erosa 33.72. Jourdain was the highest hold down time in the division. That's interesting because Jourdain doesn't even have a he doesn't even have a takedown. So how the hell does he have the highest hold? Oh, maybe because he actually has control time, but he has no takedowns, because he has 9.24% control time, but 0 takedowns in the UFC, Charles Jourdain. So that's interesting. Let's see. And then Jack Attack. What's up, Jack? Saying, I took Erosa last time. I can't trust him. Again, the chin issues are just too evident. They certainly are. And we went over that statistic already. So let's look at the lines here, you guys. I am personally going to be looking at the Charles Jourdain by knockout. We see that the best you could get Jourdain for right now is on William Hill at -170. But everywhere else, he looks about like around -180. And if you're betting Erosa, you can get him somewhere, between plus 145 and plus 140 and plus 162. And if we look at the line on Erosa, it kind of opened up at 140 and then has just kind of worked its way up. Looks like a little bit of money's coming in on him right now. But it doesn't look like this line's going to move a whole lot more. You're going to probably see Erosa around plus 150, plus 155, and, Jourdain around -180. And if we look at some of these props here, we can see that the fight doesn't go to decision, is marked around on the aggregate -181. So they're definitely thinking that this fight does finish inside the distance. The Jourdain by TKO KO is plus 140, and the money line is -180. I don't know, man. There's not a lot of value in that. I would have liked to have seen it up around plus 200. I don't know if that's bettable. Erosa by knockout is plus 450. And we got to remind ourselves that Erosa's had some nice highlight reel knockouts in his own right, and that we've seen Charles Jourdain knocked down on 0.7% of the significant strikes that he's absorbed. So he's not exactly an iron chin in his own right. So maybe there could be some value there. But, for me, the pick is still going to be Charles Jourdain inside the distance by knockout. But I don't know if I'm going to get to a bet on this fight, you guys, because I think that money line is a little bit too wide. Should Julian Erosa to choose to try to win some minutes with his grappling, should he choose to use his length a little more intelligently in this fight? I could see him winning minutes and making this fight very close, too close to be the guy that wants to be holding the -190 ticket. Consequently, if Jourdain wins this fight, I do see him getting it done inside the distance. Erosa has been finished in 80% of his UFC losses, and Charles Jourdain has a 100% finish rate in his pro wins. So, you got to believe that there is an excellent chance here that Charles Jourdain gets this done inside the distance. And with that knockout prop being about plus 140, is that where it is? Jourdain, yeah, plus 140 in comparison to -175, -180. I think that's where the value is. I think that's how I'd bet it, but I'd like to see a little bit juicier of a KO prop. So let's see here. Yeah, so you guys, I'm going to get going here. I'm going to be on Pub Sports Radio 2 hours from now, breaking down the DraftKings card with DFS by the numbers and Luke sparring with reality betting on Twitter. So yeah, I will see you guys there. God bless each and every one of you. Thanks for hanging out on another episode of Balls Deep Breakdown. We got Chris saying, keep with the fight. Doesn't go to decision as a two-legger piece is my thought. Covers both ends. Agreed. I like that. Thomas Howard saying, no distance is the play on this one. I agree with you. Monk saying, Weezy going to go sleep standing up for an hour? Exactly. I'm going to do exactly that, and then I'm going to get ready for the show and be ready. We're going to go live in 2 hours there. Dan saying, great work, brother. Thanks. Hey, thank you for hanging out. Thank each and every one of you guys for hanging out on another episode of Balls Deep Breakdown. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I will see you guys in a couple hours on Pub Sports Radio. Come check us out for DraftKings, and then we'll see you tonight after the Contender Series, either 9:30 p.m. Central or 10 p.m. Central Time for the sensual prelude to the Balls Deep Breakdown. We're going to go just the tip into the UFC Vegas 36 card and break down all 10 fights on that card. See you guys later on tonight on Pub Sports Radio, and then right here on my channel at about 9:30 or 10 p.m. Central for Just the Tip. Thank you guys for hanging out. We'll catch you on the other side. Have a good one. Let's cash these tickets against these damn bookies. They've been shaving us last week. We got to get it back.